Laura, let's go back to our earlier story now. And the modelling reported front page of The Australian today by the Master Builders Association. They briefed Labor on it, but Labor's still not happy in relation to this analysis. They say it does not factor in the grandfathering of existing investment properties in terms of negative gearing. Let's bring in the Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg. Your thoughts on this particular report? As I say, Labor suggesting that it's not complete in the sense that it doesn't look at their grandfathering of negative geared properties up until the start point of their policy.
Well, this modelling from the Master Builders Association, which is from an independent economic analysis, does show how punishing and destructive Labor's changes to negative gearing will be. I mean, Labor will, as a result of this policy, cost tens of thousands of jobs. The independent modelling shows 32,000 jobs. It will push up rents, particularly for those who probably can least afford it, and it will decrease the value of the family home.
But is it
because it will be
accurate?
sold
is the modelling
into a market?
Are you comfortable with that modelling? Like in the sense that Labor's been very strong this morning. It's very early here in Canberra, but they've been already very much disputing the modelling. Are you comfortable with the way that's been framed? Well,
Labor's argument's a phony argument, because what this modelling is focusing on is what happens going forward. Now, the Labor Party, by ending negative gearing, will actually see a reduction in the number of dwelling constructions. That's the main takeout of this modelling. And when Labor came up with this policy, it was in a very different housing market. What we've seen over the last 12 months is prices come down each and every month in the capital cities. We've seen the number of first home buyers getting loans, approvals, topping over 100,000 in number, the highest since 2009. The impact of APRA's changes in the market have seen a change in the market dynamic to one which is focused on owner-occupiers as opposed to investors.
But, Treasurer, it's not correct to say that Labor is ending negative gearing, is it?
Well, what they're doing is for the 1.3 million people who currently have negative gearing, and all those who are looking to it into the future will not have the same benefits that they have today. That is the fact. What they're doing is halving the capital gains tax discount, and they're preventing negative gearing going to the future for so many people who would want it.
Well, Treasurer, is this the gold standard modelling today that we see from Master Builders, or is it your own Treasury a couple of months ago which said that this would have a minimal effect on the housing market?
Well, Kieran, let me tell you exactly, Laura and Kieran, what Treasury's modelling said. It actually said it could have it could put downward pressure on housing prices as a result of Labor's policy. And this is the important point. It said particularly if it came at a time of a slowing housing market. And what the Reserve Bank has said is that the housing market is now coming back to sustainable levels. What Standard & Poor's have said is there's been an orderly unwind in the housing market. What Labor's policy is doing now into the future will be coming into a very different market than when they came up with this very bad idea, and it's part of a $200 billion increased tax agenda which will slug retirees, family businesses, income earners and, of course, property owners.
Up until recently, you were the Energy Minister, as we know, and the Environment Minister. When it comes to this approach of the default price, the retailers say this could have an adverse impact in terms of the competition in the market, because it could cap the price and basically price out smaller retailers. Do you think that that's a concern that has merit?
I prefer to take the advice of the ACCC, and I think that would be wise to do so, Kieran, because what the energy companies have been benefiting from for too long is confusing offers. And by taking the ACCC's advice, we will have a default price off which people can see discounts. That's going to be of great benefit to households who could save hundreds of dollars, businesses over $1,000 as a result of this.
Talk about confusing offers, though, but what about the confusing message from the government? Last week, Angus Taylor says he wants to work with the retailers. This week, they're the bogeyman. Which is it? Why not be more constructive with them as opposed to sort of comparing them to the banks?
Well, Kieran, we've been very consistent in this policy. When we first got the ACCC advice, we accepted this recommendation. The Labor Party is probably scrambling for a position because on their watch, power prices doubled.
Now, big business has questioned the economic underwriting of the expansion of coal-fired power. What is the economic case for that, Treasurer?
Well, there's actually a market failure because new players into the sector can't necessarily get the long-term finance that is needed, Laura, to underwrite new generation. And what the ACCC has advised is that if the government would step in and provide some certainty,
did it? So I guess
it made it very clear that it would be firm power, that is dispatchable power, and that's what's guiding us. And as you know, Laura, we are technology agnostic when it comes to these matters. We see an important role for coal, we see an important role for gas, as well as an important role for renewables as long as there is storage. And what we're talking about is industrial customers.
Do you see an important role for the Emissions Reduction Fund going forward as well? This is a fund that will run out of money and is due to end in 2020. Moderates in your party are calling for this to be topped up $1 billion. As Treasurer, with a budget update fast approaching, are you considering that? Will you top up that fund?
Oh, well, look, these are issues and discussions for behind closed doors as part of a cabinet process. But the Emissions Reduction Fund, which was created on my predecessor in that role's watch, Greg Hunt, has been very successful in contracting for more than 190 million tonnes of abatement at an average cost of around $12.
Finally, I want to ask you about the new penalties you're announcing today on white-collar crime. 10 times the penalties for some of these. This obviously comes out of the Banking Royal Commission. Talk us through what sort of approach this is going to see in terms of the behaviour that has been highlighted by the Commission.
Well, these increased penalties actually come out of a review conducted into ASIC. And this was recommendations to the government, which we've obviously accepted, which will see a tenfold increase in the civil penalties and a doubling of the penalties for criminal action. What we've seen through the Banking Royal Commission is revelations about unacceptable conduct, whether it's mis-selling of insurance policies or misleading advice. And these new penalties, which we're introducing in legislation to the Parliament today, will make a difference in stamping out that type of behaviour and improving the culture and the conduct in the financial services sector.
Treasurer, we look forward to that announcement later on today. Thanks so much for your time on First Edition.
Good to be with you.